But you see, if the ego is rising, all you're going to see is rudeness and disrespect, and they're not listening and all of this.
Hi, everyone. It's Deb Blum here, and I'm here with Louise Clarke, and I am so excited to have you here today. Hi.
Hi, Deb. I'm so excited to be with you as well. It's such an honor, and I always enjoy chatting to you. So thank you for having me here.
Yes, it is so wonderful. And yeah, I was thinking about when we met, that we met when we were at a parenting conference in Southern California.
Yeah, we were lucky. I was sitting right beside you. It was my
I know.
birthday, remember?
I know.
Yes,
I
yes,
know.
I do
I know.
remember being very lucky. I came away thinking, oh, I really scored there sitting by Deb.
I felt the same way about you. So that's so nice. And it's
Yeah.
been so great to watch you in your journey. And so I just want to call out a couple things that I know about you. One is that you are a certified parenting coach and mindfulness coach, but that you also do so much more. And it's been so amazing because a lot of what you've been doing has been just since I've known you in the past few years. One of them is that you have over 417 episodes on a parenting podcast. That's
I do.
amazing.
I know, it's incredible. I look at it myself and go, when did that happen? And yeah, I did it in a short period of time. I committed to, doing 5 a week for over a year. And I love doing it. And people ask me, how do I do them? And I'm like, well, I just hit record and I talk. I don't have notes. I don't have anything. I have an idea, as to
Right.
what I'll talk about today, but I don't have notes, and I just flow and go for it. And I love it. And my listeners love it. And yeah, I've got, I think, over 220,000 downloads on my podcast now. So it's
Amazing.
super popular, called Parenting in the Thick of It.
Parenting in the thick of it. And it's so great. And I love it because they're often very short and sweet and I'm always impressed by how much you're able to pack into a short amount of time.
Oh,
It's
thank
just
you.
impressive.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Someone wrote to me this morning, a listener, and she said, I just want to tell you, you have totally saved my life. She said,
Oh,
I started listening to your podcast and I went for a run yesterday. And she said, I normally run 10Ks and I ran 21 because I just kept hitting play.
oh my God, that's so funny.
So yeah, she said it was very helpful to her, and I saved her. So
Beautiful. What more could you ask for?
I
Right.
know, it's such a great feeling to know that I can support so many people like you. You support you people through your podcast and all the work you do. It's, the give.
Yeah, it truly is. It's amazing. Well, so thank you for that. And thank you because I know being a podcaster, it's like a labor of love. Like, we're giving back so much to other people. And sometimes it can feel thankless. So it's so great when people are
Mhm.
telling us, how they feel about it. But so you live in Canada, you have 3 children, teenagers.
I do. My 14-year-old will be 15 on Sunday, so we're going to have an interesting birthday. And it's funny though, because he said, Mom, birthdays are just another day. I said, they are, but I said, it isn't the day, we're celebrating the day you came into this world. So he goes, yes, but every day really should be a celebration. I'm like, yep. And it is, we're very grateful. So he said, but I don't think it's going to be quite the same. I said, no, I don't think it will be the same. And his
Yeah.
grand spoke to him yesterday and said, I can't send anything because I can't go to the shop to buy a card. Yeah. And he goes, that's okay, Grandma. It's absolutely fine. I know you're thinking of me. So he'll
Oh.
be 15 on Sunday. And then I have a 17-year-old daughter and who's in her final grade at school, the high school this year. And then I have a 19-year-old who's just finished his first year at art school at a university in Vancouver.
Yeah. So you have been there doing this parenting thing for a long time. You've been parenting in the thick of it.
I've been thinking it for a long time. Yeah, that
Yeah.
name came to me very easily.
Yeah, I totally get that. So, and just a couple little notes, a couple final notes about you. Just that you are the founder of Your Parenting Partner, and you are also the author of a book. So I thought maybe you could just tell us a little bit about anything else you want to add about yourself, and also a little bit about your book, because it seems like it's a really great segue into what we want to talk about today.
It is, yes. I have an ebook called Parenting the Modern Teen, and it is a book which will help parents realize, if there's one thing they come away with having read my book, it's that it's really less about their teenager and more about them. And throughout my book, I help parents realize that the more we can control ourselves and contain our reactivity in the moment, I'm not saying, you know, we have to deal with the triggers, we'll get to that, but in the moment, if we lose it, we lose our capacity to influence our kids. And not only that, we end up joining them in the teenage ring because we become teenagers ourselves when we're reactive and react to whatever it is that they are dishing us. So it's all about how we control ourselves in the face of whatever our teenager decides to throw at us in any given moment. And we never know. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what they're going to do tomorrow. We don't know what they're going to do tonight. So it's not specifically on how to parent your teen if they do this or if they do that or when they've done this. It's how to parent ourselves through any situation that they will put upon us. And really, if we can control ourselves in the face of anything they throw at us, we're good.
Yeah.
So that's really the premise of my book. And I discuss, you know, a bit of brain science. I discuss boundaries, expectations. I do have a long, the last chapter book is all about solutions, so to speak, but they're not solutions to specific problems. They're how we find the solutions within ourselves and therefore bring about change in their behavior through us initiating the change. We can't change them.
Right.
So it's a lot to take in. And it's a very different paradigm. You know, a lot of it's based on the conscious parenting paradigm from Dr. Shefali, who I know you're a big fan of as well. Yep. And, you know, but I pull in other bits from other platforms as well. And it's, you know, the way I try and show up in my life. Can't do it all the time, but I aspire to do it more and more. So yeah, it's been really popular. I get a lot of fantastic positive feedback from it, and it's available in an audio format as well, and there's a course that goes with it too if you really want to activate and accelerate the learnings.
That's great. Yeah, so we will put that into the show notes so that anyone who wants to download your book, they can, and also that they can explore any other ways to work with you. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, and I know you said you bring in other from other platforms, but I think that the most important platform often is that we have experienced it ourselves. We practice it. And when we practice it and we see the changes in our lives, it's mind blowing, right? So and then when we see it in our clients and we see that this stuff works, that is. And I love it. So you know that what this is all about is inside out activism and the idea that it starts with us and that, you know, and so I think it's beautiful because it's exactly what you're saying is that it all starts with us, even our triggers, even or always our triggers, but even our, but I think that the trick is, how about, can we start with this? So what we're talking about today is triggers and how our teens trigger us. But I think what's really important to talk about is just your definition. What is a trigger and how does it show up for people that you're in your experience?
So, you know, as Dr. Shefali taught me, and for a while I was going, but no, it can't be. She always says, as you know, Deb, the trigger is always on the inside. The trigger is not on the outside. And I'd go, no, it has to be my kid. Look what he's done. Look what she's done. Look what my husband's done. Look what the cat's done. It's done. Totally. And you know, I'd sit in these lectures from her, as you probably did as well. And you'd like, yeah, but, and she'd go, no buts. And we go, okay, so the trigger is on the inside. And it's a very, very complex, deep understanding to come to. And I don't know how you managed to get to this place where you recognize, yes, the trigger is on the inside. It's the behavior, your child's behavior or your husband's behavior or your cat's behavior or your coworker's behavior, that experience in your outer reality is triggering an experience in you. It's awakening an experience within you that you've had sometime in your past. That's the trigger. And when parents are really confused, I always use this. There's two triggers I we all have the kind of the ubiquitous five. Like we weren't seen, we weren't heard, we weren't understood, we don't feel we belong, we don't feel we're worthy. Somehow, somewhere, the inside trigger will be around those five main kind of things. So I was raised, I'm 54 now, I was raised very much in a kids are seen and not heard era. And so, you know, it was my mum's way or the highway. We listened to her. We didn't question her. We did what she wanted us to do. And that was it. You know, I didn't really get to express my opinion. And especially if my opinion was contrary to hers. So I didn't feel heard as a child. So I have this emotional experience in me of not being heard. So let's wind the clock forward now. And I've got children. And I ask them to do things, and they look at me and they don't listen. It's not them not listening. The trigger isn't them not listening. The trigger is me not being heard. And when I explain that to the parents I work with, they can see that, okay, they still say, but he should listen. And I'm like, maybe he should, but can you make him? And they go, no. So I'm like, precisely.
Right.
You can't make him. But what can you change within you to help them listen to you? Therefore, you feel heard. So in the moment, you know, that's how the trigger plays out. Now we have to do some inner work on the trigger. And, you know, the inner child work that you and I have done plenty of. And, you know, clearing up our inner landscape. I don't know, I've got a question for you as well. It's because we clear the inner landscape and we do what we need to do. And I mean, that's a whole conversation in and of itself, you know, reparenting the inner child. Because as much as I have 3 children in my reality, I have 4 because I have my own inner child to deal with, right? But so there's the repair process is twofold. We need to do the inner work to somewhat dissolve the trigger so that when my kids don't listen to me, I still feel worthy of being heard.
Yeah.
So that's the inner work. Now, in the moment, for me, is not the place I do the inner work. So in the moment, I might actually not feel heard in a particular moment because I don't believe we can ever get rid of all those emotional experiences and neutralize them so we are never triggered again if someone doesn't hear us. However, I think with the work I do, I speak for myself, the work I've done for myself, 80-20 for me is pretty good. If for 80% of the time, 90, I can not be listened to and remain untriggered and not react, I'm good. But I'm human, I'm a mom. They're going to get to me. That trigger is going to be, even though I've worked on it, I do believe there's still room for it to be reactivated in certain situations.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I had got it right all the time. So do you think you can completely heal the trigger? Completely. So it will never, ever show up again?
Well, I
Put you
know,
on the spot there.
no, I know better than to say that I think anything is like forever, because I laughed many, many times when I said, oh, like I finally think I got this one, you know, I finally do. And like the next day I'd be like, like another thing happened, you know?
Yeah.
So I would say that neither one of us know, because so I'm 49 and you're 54 and we just don't know. We still have, you know, we still have more life to live. So, God willing. And I think that the answer to that is, I think my experience has been much like yours, that I would say the most of the time I'm either not triggered, or to the point that I think you're kind of getting at is like, I'm capable in the moment now that when I am triggered, I'm capable of pausing.
Yeah.
And being able to know that it's not a time to react and that I need to walk away, or I need to take some breaths, or I need to do something to center myself. So I can be in the midst of a pretty significant trigger still. Like I've had some recent things that have happened to me that were new, really big new layers of something from my past with a friendship. And I was very, very triggered, but I was able to still compose myself. So I
Yeah.
think that the key thing is not to achieve like some level of perfection that you're never going to ever feel triggered. But the two things are, the majority of time, you might not be.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
when you are, and the way that I've experienced it is when I am is either that I have lowered capacity for some reason, like stress,
Mm-hmm.
or too many
And
things
right
on my
now, I mean, we're recording this. I don't know, people might be
yeah.
listening to this in years to come. We're recording this the time of the coronavirus, and
Yes.
we're all in lockdown. So
Yes.
I've got my three children and my husband at home all day long, as
Right.
you do, Ed,
Yeah.
as everybody in the world is with us on this one. So stress levels are higher. So if
Right.
we're talking triggers right now, if you're going to be triggered, this is a time where you could potentially be very highly triggered.
Right, right. But the second piece to that, I think is really important for people to understand. And I know this is what you're talking about here is that so just because you're triggered doesn't mean that you have to take the bait too. So,
Totally,
so
totally.
it's beautiful that both of us have done enough work that many of the times we're not even actually triggered. Like I don't even actually feel the emotional charge anymore. But when I feel the emotional charge and I am actually triggered, the question is, do I have enough capacity to be able to hold
Yeah,
my own experience in that and remember immediately,
yeah,
this is not about them. This is about me. If I'm this activated, it's, even though I might have to go back later and
mhm,
deal with, hey, listen, when you said that to me, that actually was not, that didn't feel good. That wasn't okay. I don't necessarily need to deal with it right then. At that moment, I need to go, why am I having so much of a reaction to this? This is disproportionate to what's happening right here. What's going on inside of me? So, yeah.
yeah.
So,
And
yeah, I don't know the answer, but I'm with you. That's been
yeah,
my experience
yeah,
so
and
far.
I hope that over, I've still got years and years to work on this. But the emotional experiences that we are all having right now during COVID-19, those experiences are going to be locked within us.
Mm-hmm.
And who's to say in 5 years, if we have the privilege of having 5 more years or 10 more years, something could happen 10 years from now that is going to reactivate the wound that happened today. For me, I might get very upset about something. I might hear some terrible news. So that every day we have emotional experiences that we are experiencing, and some of them will be laid down, and some of them, those will become new potential internal triggers in the future. So, it's a work in progress. It's never done. But I think it's twofold. In my book, I always say there's two steps. I don't like the recipes or the steps, but we have to do the inner work to prepare us for the moment. But in the moment, we have to be able to actually not react. We have to have the bandwidth. You say you didn't have the capacity, the bandwidth to deal with ourselves in the moment and deal with the
Right.
person in the moment. And so there's a lot of prep work for that. There's the inner work, prep work, but in the moment, this is where parents say, but I haven't done the prep work, but I don't want to react. So it's a bit like the chicken or the egg. You have to do both so
Mm-hmm.
that in the moment you can
Yeah.
show up less reactive. But I could do all the prep work and in the moment be completely reactive because I haven't got the bandwidth in that moment to deal with it.
Right.
So we have to have the awareness to know bandwidth 0, can't deal with this right now.
Yeah.
Let's just take a moment.
Yeah.
And say, you know what, I cannot deal with this right now. I need some time. And just a minute can be enough. Maybe you need a day, maybe you need a week. It depends on each situation. It depends on you and where you're at. But we have to have the awareness to know whether we are in a position to be able to deal with the situation we're faced with.
Yeah. Yeah. And our egos, which is, I want to make sure I'm really clear because I think a lot of people think when someone says ego, we're like talking about our like arrogance or something.
Yeah. No.
But our ego defense mechanisms, our coping strategies, that ego piece of us is so clever and it can convince us, no, this time
Yeah.
it's
No, he's
them.
wrong.
This
He's totally
time
wrong.
he's just
And
wrong.
I know more. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone else would agree with me. Everyone would agree that he is talking to me
Yep.
respectfully.
There's not a parent out there that would not agree with me that he's being really disrespectful.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the challenges, right? Is in it, the capacity is not just to the awareness that, like, should I be engaging, but the fact that our egos are little tricksters, and they're so clever, and they will try to convince us that this is the time that we actually should respond or react this way.
Yeah. They're going to get away with it if we don't do it now.
Yeah, right. And they're going to think that it's okay, and they're going to think that
you don't want to be a permissive parent, do you, ego?
Ego. Exactly. Right. But that's a perfect one where it seems so compelling. The other thing that seems really compelling, I think it used to feel very compelling for me, was the relief that I would experience in the instant moment that I would lose it. I would experience this relief, but then afterwards I felt horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But in the moment, it felt like I was just so angry that if I just I had to let it out, like I was like a teapot or something like that. And I just had to.
Powerful, right? It makes you feel powerful. It puts you in a position of power over.
Yeah.
And it never works.
No.
But in the moment you feel great. You're like, I am in charge. I'm in control. They can't do this. I've shown them that I won't tolerate this. And it feels good in the moment. You get this dopamine hit off it. Like, yes, I stood up for myself.
Yeah.
But afterwards, it never feels good. But our kids are the ones who will teach us, because especially as they get older, as they into their teen years, they just look at you and walk away. I mean, you're lucky if they just walk away. Usually, then they are highly reactive because we've reacted to their reactivity. And, they don't usually just say, Mom, you're having a bad moment, and walk away. You'll get way worse than that, and, a slam door.
Yeah.
And they show you. They're if you look at them, they're mirrors. They will show you exactly how you have conducted yourself.
Like it or not, they will do that.
Like it or not. They're going to show you if you can see it. But you see, if the ego is rising, all you're going to see is rudeness and disrespect, and they're not listening and all of this.
Yeah. So when the one thing that I hear all the time from parents is that they may want this. They want what you're talking about. They don't want to be reacting. They don't want that. They don't want to be so triggered, but they can't even catch themselves. Yeah. They can't even catch themselves. It just happens. And they're just completely almost caught off guard by themselves. Mm-hmm. So is that where the inner work comes into play, where people have to do the inner work, or is there something that
I think they do. I mean, I think you can band-aid the situation. And I'm all for band-aiding the situation, to give yourself the time you need to do a little bit of inner work. And, you don't know how long it's going to take to do it. I mean, but just do a little bit of inner work, band-aid it until such time as that inner work kind of catches you up, so that you don't have to band-aid it. Mm-hmm. And by band-aid it, I mean, just somehow just you're triggered, but just somehow have the awareness that in that moment to react, it's going downhill and downhill fast.
Yeah.
So, what can you do? And when I say band-aid, it's not really, because I still do that. If I feel myself reactive in the moment, I have to notice it. Without awareness, you're not going to even know that you're reacting. So I like to say I have a reactivity radar detector scanning all day long. And, beep, beep, it's high. Okay, don't do something to bring it down. And in the moment, just take a pause, take a breath, walk away for a bit. And I don't mean walk away as in, that's it, I'm out. Just say, I need a moment. Go to the toilet. Yes. Go to your bedroom. Go to the laundry. Go and take stuff out the washing machine. Just give yourself a physical break from the triggered situation. Get yourself out of it in a nice way.
Yeah.
And then that space will allow you to see through a different lens. Because when we're triggered, we're seeing through a lens of criticism, judgment, blame, shame, anger, frustration, all these things. We're only seeing through that lens. Now, the minute you walk away and that person is not in your vision or in your field, in your energetic field, you can perhaps go, what's going on for them? So switch take this pair off,
Right.
put this pair on, and this is the compassionate, open, wonder what's going on. What's driving that behavior? Why did my teen do that? What's the unmet need beneath the behavior? And then sometimes we'll put these lenses on and go, blah, 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 and then you have, no, I need to put these ones on, and I'm switching. That's what we need to do.
Yeah. Thank you for keeping the compassionate ones on. I'm thankful. I was like, no, don't put those other ones back on.
But it's as simple as that. That's what we do. So if you can go and change the lens and come back and at least, dare you say fake it till you make it, fake being open and curious, just somehow get through that moment. And then when you've got time, sit and look at what, know what your triggers are. What are they? Is it not being seen, not being heard, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough?
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. And, you don't have to spend hours and hours back at the time where, you didn't feel heard. I know in a class when I was 8 and I did my presentation, I opened my mouth and said, I'm going to talk about canaries. And the whole class laughed at me. And I remember that. We've all got a moment where something, so from that day on, do you know how hard it was to get me to speak up in class?
I can imagine.
Why would I speak up when the whole class laughed at me?
Right.
I mean, canaries, sure. But my grandpa had a canary. I loved his canary.
Right.
And I wanted the whole class to know about this canary.
Totally.
Yeah. So trigger, right? So if someone laughs at me, if my teens are getting all snarky and they start laughing at me, guess how I feel?
Yeah.
Like the little girl in the classroom presenting her canary thing and everyone laughed at me.
Yeah.
So if we know where the big ones were, and we can then work on that and repair that in ourselves, that's the prep work, the foundation work. That means you won't actually have to band-aid it. You won't actually have to kind of fake it till you make it in the situation, because you will be able to show up with these lenses on more and more often and see that behavior is a means of communication, and your teen is just communicating their need, an unmet need. But if I've got these on, I can't see the unmet need.
Right.
I have to put these on to be curious and open enough, not critical, not judgment. The triggers not being activated. I have to somehow, it's okay, parent myself, it's okay. How can I help them? Right.
So I really appreciate that. I think that's really important. And I think that's a good thing to talk about for a second, is that the behaviors, I think that we overrate words as the way of communicating. We have this idea that the words we speak are actually representing what we feel. And so rarely is that actually true. For the most part, we're all acting out, whether it's body language, expressions, actual behavior, whether it's through silence. We're always speaking. Rob Bell says, he says, we're always speaking and sometimes we use words. And he was really referring to parents, that kids are always learning from us by our behaviors, by our interactions with other people, by our body language. They're always learning. And so I think that's important, because that's the same thing with our kids. And what you said is really important, because what they say and do, and their reactivity, their own issues, it comes from multiple things. But I think the two main ones are being unskilled because they're young. and that they actually do what that does for them is it provides them this difficult situation where the only way they can express themselves sometimes is through behavior or tone or words that they're trying to find their way. And it's really on us to help them to learn to understand themselves better, to say, one of my favorite things to say to the kids when they are really acting out more, is to say something to the effect of, wow, when I look at you doing this, like, I can only imagine something is going on inside of you, because you would never, ever act this way to me if something wasn't upsetting you right now. What's going on? What am I missing? What am I not seeing?
Mm-hmm.
And it allows them the space to think about it. Now, sometimes they're just like, no, because they're activated. They're in the part of their brain where they're triggered, and their ego is convincing them that I'm the enemy at that moment. Mm-hmm. And that's why, as you said, it's so important that we are able to regulate ourselves enough to not to become the teenager engaged in that battle with them, mm-hmm. not to have two egos.
Yeah. And fighting it out.
Yeah. Somebody needs to be sane.
Yeah. And totally. And the other really important thing, and I have this in my book, is, understanding the teenage brain. And, Dan Siegel's book, Brainstorm, Understanding the Adolescent Brain, it's a remarkable book. And all that neurophysiology and neuroscience that's now available to us, and in a palatable way, in terms of very easy to read, can really help us understand just what's going on in that teenage brain.
Yeah.
Because it's being totally rewired and put together again. So it's all unwired. It's all in complete chaos. Yeah. And it's being wired for dopamine. It's being wired for risky behaviors. And that's why they're impulsive. They're super curious. They're socially engaged. They're learning how to be in the world.
Yeah.
But their brains are AWOL.
Yeah.
So, and that prefrontal cortex, which is being rewired and reintegrated and laid down in a more logical, or the way it should be, that's not, as you know, it's not complete till somewhere between the ages of 22 to 25.
Yeah.
So expecting them to not want to take part in risky behaviors, expecting them to not be impulsive, expecting them to think about things thoroughly before they do them. It's crazy on our part, because they actually can't do it. They're not they're not being strong-willed and defiant and saying, I won't do it. They can't do it. They have not got the prefrontal cortex capacity and the executive functioning skills honed in enough to be capable of doing it.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like we need to have a lot of compassion for them.
An awful lot of compassion. So you see, you need these lenses. These are bad.
Yeah. Well, because then that's all they do, right? You just judge them. But it's like, because then they think there's something wrong with them, instead of them simply going through a developmental phase, which is adolescence, which is actually what they're supposed to be going through. And that actually brings up a really good point, that we as parents, the more we can have compassion for what they're going through, it's like we have to hold that for them. We have to hold that we see you. We know this is normal. You'll get through this. We're here with you.
And the one thing that gets us almost every time, I've just put together a short presentation on this, is there's one thing we all do, and you'll do it and I'll do it. We can't help it at times. Now, I do it less and you'll do it less. But for parents generally out there, there's one thing they do that they shoot themselves in the foot every time when they're with their teenagers. That is, they take their teenagers' behavior personally.
Yes.
They take it as a reflection of them. And the minute you take it personally, you go into fight, flight, or freeze.
Totally.
Survival, and you render your higher order brain thinking redundant just when you need it. And what that means is you can't think straight. If you're in survival mode, your executive functioning skills are zero, and you're just going to survive. You'll fight it, you'll fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
You'll do one of those three things, and you will not be able to think straight.
Yeah.
So by taking it personally, it's a one-way street.
Yeah.
It's down the wrong road. It's down this road. These lenses are the personal lenses.
Yeah.
Right? And these ones are I am not going to take it personally. I understand their brains are going a bit whatever, and I know they're not rude and disrespectful. I know they're finding it hard right now, but I'm not going to take it personally. Mom, you're the meanest mom. You've got nothing in the cupboard for me to eat. There's no food in here. Everyone else's house has got more food than me. No one has to go to bed as early as me. I'm the only one that can't sleep with my phone. You're awful. I hate you. And what do? We take that personally.
Yeah.
But with these lenses, we can go, no, I understand they're really struggling. And I know I'm not the only one that does this. And even if it was my value, I'm going to stand strong and stand true to it.
Right.
So nothing they say is going to bother me. The arrows can go past, but I'm not going to take it, because the minute you take the arrow, you're going to fire one back.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be ego to ego,
right.
Two teenagers fighting out in the ring. And
right.
then you end up fighting over the fight. You can't even remember what it was.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And one thing you just said, though, that I want to call it, the other thing I know about you is, you said something about that, like when you say something is your value, you're going to hold to it. I also do know that you're a very open person. You have a lot of conversations with your kids, and that's part of it too, is it's like a lot of times I think we think that we need to be engaged in the discussion in that moment. And we need to try, like, let's just say it is about like, no one else lets all my other friends get to sleep with their phones, just as an example. A lot of times we think we need to engage in a discussion while they're angry. And
bad news, not a good idea.
Right. Not a good time. And it's just important at that moment to really acknowledge. And we say, hey, listen, what, I hear what you're saying. Like, it must be so hard for you when you look around and you kind of see it, and your friends tell you that they sleep with their phones, and you feel like I'm the only one that doesn't. And I just want you to know I hear you. And I want to talk about it with you at some point, but right now doesn't seem like the right time. I'm kind of feeling a little triggered. You seem like you're kind of activated. Do you think we can hook back up and talk about this in a couple of hours?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the whole emotional literacy piece is huge. It doesn't matter how old your kid is. It doesn't matter how old we are. We can always improve our own emotional literacy.
Always.
And, being emotionally intelligent about it, and, helping our children feel their feelings. And because, if we feel the feelings, we heal. And, research says that we only have to sit in our feelings for 60 to 90 seconds.
I know, it's crazy.
To process it.
Yep.
So, but what we do is, when we're triggered, we don't allow any of us to feel our feelings.
Right.
So you're right. So if we've been triggered yesterday by something and not really allowed yourself to feel it, and your child's not felt it, there's unresolved baggage coming into every moment.
Yes.
And so helping our kids and helping ourselves develop the emotional literacy skills to support our kids, so that they feel all feelings are okay. Because all feelings are okay. Not to be dismissed, not to be stuffed, not to be denied, not to be looked over. But in the moment when we're triggered and we're uncomfortable, we just want to get out of it.
Totally.
And so, I spend quite a bit of time with my clients on how to support your kids and develop their emotional literacy. And I've got a great acronym that I use for that. The detached savvy mom. Write them down in a row. Detached is drop, ego, 2, access, compassion, empathy with dignity. So that's the detached.
I love
Savvy is support, accept and acknowledge, validate. You validate your child, let your child vent. The why is you. It's all about you, how you support them through this.
Wow.
Mom is mirror, the M. O is observe. You're observing all the time, observing, and you're mirroring. So if they're mad, you can go, I can see you're really mad right now. You don't want to go all sad when they're mad or sad when they're happy. And then the M at the end is to move or maneuver. In other words, you do not make a move to fix it until you have been through all of that and they've been supported. And it might not even be in that moment. It might be you're just supporting them in that moment. But to do it, you have to let go of your fear.
Yeah.
And you have to be curious, open, and all these things. So that's my acronym for it.
I
And
love
I do
it.
that with all the clients I work with. So important.
That seems like that's one of the most important things, actually, really, for people to take away is this idea. And when you say detached, you're right. You're not saying detached from feelings. You're actually probably more saying like, no, really, it's actually the time to feel. It's just detaching from the fear, detaching from all of our head stuff,
yeah,
you know, and going into the present moment with them. Yeah, it's so beautiful. And
it's through that moment. And
through that moment.
You can't do it with these glasses, people.
You can't do that. You can't do it with those glasses for sure. And you can keep, like you said, you might catch yourself on, off, on, off. Oh, I think you just froze for a second. Are you there? Oh, you came back.
We just froze there temporarily.
We froze for a second, but you had your glasses and I love it. And I think that's important for people to know. You might even put them on and off, even in a conversation, but keep coming back to putting the lens of compassion for yourself and the lens of compassion for them, and to keep on. Yeah. And I really am appreciating what you said at the end. The M is the maneuver, the move, and don't do that until you've done the others. Because what I think happens is also sometimes the trigger is it's always something deeper, right? But there's also stuff happening in the moment, like you're rushing, and there are other types of triggers. Now, usually that's still rooted in something else, like, oh, I'm going to get into trouble if I'm late or whatever. But if you allow yourself more spaciousness, you won't need, that trigger won't be activated as much. But the problem we have is often we're trying to either, we are uncomfortable with the feelings, or we're uncomfortable with their ideas, or some other thing has us coming in and doing the maneuvering before everything. We're trying to fix, we're trying to stop, we're trying to give advice, we're trying to get them to see what we see. And we're trying to often engage them in their prefrontal cortex, which we're trying to rationalize, think, be, on top of it, when all the while they're back there feeling all these feelings, feeling out of control. And so what you're saying with detached savvy mom is come first and meet them in that part of their brain back here. And then you guide them to the front. And once you get there, right, you finally have arrived, and you can use the one tool, which is the move and maneuver tool, is the only one that's here. The rest of them, they're all this gentle, detached, savvy mom gets here, right? Because if you don't do it that way, you will always be falling down in this, because it's so hard to do it otherwise.
Yeah. But there's so much groundwork and prep work, and then in the moment work. So, if you're listening and you're thinking, oh my goodness, how will I ever do this? You can do it.
Yes.
It takes work, but you can do it. And, it's complex, but it's incredibly simple in its, it's like, which glasses do you want? These ones or these ones?
Yeah.
So somehow in the moment when you're feeling wound up, you have to somehow go, I need the other lens.
Yeah. So I think that if I were just to recap some of the things you said for people, I think the first thing, you didn't exactly say this, but I'm just going to add this in for what I've seen for people, is that the first thing is you have to you said awareness. So you did. And I think we both agree. The first thing is, before you do anything, just start to notice yourself being triggered. Don't expect yourself to do something right now. Just start to notice it.
No judgment.
No judgment, and just be like, wow, look at that. I do get reactive to those things, and start to just track it back. If you have a journal, track it back, like later on, remember what you were feeling and say, why do I feel that way? What's going on? There's not some like urgency on this, but I tell people to go into the body, like notice what's going on. Like for me, my heart starts racing, my arms get tingly. I feel a sense needing to do something right now. So the more that I became aware of those sensations, I could catch myself more quickly and then go to the bathroom or go walk in the other room, or go to pull the laundry out. So the first thing is really the awareness. The second thing is the pause. But if you haven't cultivated some awareness and some
Meditation.
through meditation,
That's another whole conversation.
whole
That's the
conversation.
only place you can really strengthen your awareness, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
So you strengthen your awareness. You also become aware in the moment, but you also have to have the intention. So you have to know that you're like, after this, you listen to this and you're like, I am going to do better. I want to have compassion for my child. I want a better relationship with my child. I don't want to be reactive. So become aware. And then once you've done that, that's when you engage in you start practicing the detached savvy mom. Because some of this stuff, it's like just the first step is to just be aware of what you're doing. And if you can engage in things like meditation proactively, if you can do some of your inner child work proactively, it's like this. It's like they're coming together. And one day you're going to be like, oh my God, it's working. It's working. I can do this.
And you don't even have to have meditated, and you don't even have to say, well, I'm not very aware. You can still do it.
Yes.
It takes effort, but you can still do it. I'm working with a client right now who hasn't done any of that. And she's managing to do this gentle. She's gentle with herself, and she's taking little steps, and she's noticing, herself more. And when you start noticing, I mean, as Dr. Shefali says, ignorance is bliss and awareness is a bitch.
Yeah.
Because once you're aware, you can't be unaware. And when you start becoming aware of how often you're losing your shit and it's all about you, you can't take that back.
Totally.
It's awesome, because that's the portal to change. That's how you can make a difference tomorrow and the next day.
Yes. And so as we wrap up, I want to just say two things. First of all, thank you. I just want to say thank you. And thank you so much for being so candid about it and helping people to see that there's another way. And that both of us, I just want to validate that both of us, before we start talking, it's just like I truly believe in it. It is easier to be in relationship with our children when we learn these skills. It is easier to feel proud as a parent, feel better about ourselves, to feel less in strife and struggle all the time. So that's available to everyone. But can you tell us, I'm going to put your links below, so you don't have to get too in detail, but what's the best thing for people to do? Go to visit your website? Is that the best place to start?
Go to my website, yourparentingpartner.com, and across the top is all the tabs. You can find out about me. You can see what I do. The podcast links there. My book links there. My family organizer link is there. All the links, all my blogs are there. So really the website you'll get that's all you need to know.
Right. So they can go for free podcast, your website. For a small fee, they can get your ebook, but they can also work with you.
They can totally work with me.
Yes. That's beautiful.
And there's also a request a conversation on my website as well. So if you want to work with me, you can set up a time we have a call, and we'll see, how we would work, how long it would take, how much it would cost, etc. You can do that as well off my website. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for enlightening everyone on our triggers in our teens. It's been so great and so lovely to be with you.
Thank you, Deb. It's been awesome to chat to you about it with you as well. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Great to see you, and stay safe. Take care.
You too.
Yeah.
Okay.